Climate change activist leaves huge carbon footprint. Greta Thunberg's yacht trip is actually going to cost more carbon than it saved. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious, and today on dailymail.co.uk. So, some of you may have heard of Greta Thunberg. She's a climate change activist, and honestly quite an annoying person. We're going to talk about how she virtue signals about environmentalism and is propped up by the media and has been traveling around the world for her stupid cause. Before we jump into this, monetization on my channel has been completely disabled. Because I have no ads, you can support me on Patreon or Subscribestar, and there's also PayPal and Bitcoin options. All links are in the description. The next best thing you could do is to share my videos because websites are deranking and deboosting red-pilled content. You can also check out my affiliate link. So how exactly did Greta Thunberg's 2-week trip across the Atlantic Ocean cause more carbon than it solved? And remember, she's a climate change activist. The only reason she took a boat was so that she wouldn't have to fly and would save carbon and thus help save the planet. But let's read here. On the Daily Mail, Greta Thunberg's 2-week trip across the Atlantic in zero-carbon yacht may generate more emissions than it saves, as 2 of the crew have to fly to New York to bring the boat back to Europe. I actually read in another article that it's going to take 4 transcontinental flights because she took this trip. Because she's trying to, virtue signal and has appearances and is probably making a lot of money on environmentalism, on the cause. We're going to talk about why climate change is a foolish, stupid cause and why, it's basically just a scam these days. Greta Thunberg's transatlantic voyage on a zero-carbon yacht has been rocked by revelations that the crew will fly to New York in a gas-guzzling plane to bring the boat back to Europe. It is claimed that this would generate more emissions than the yacht saves and threatens to leave the 16-year-old's plan to chart an environmentally friendly route to the United States in tatters. On Wednesday, the Swedish eco-campaigner left Plymouth on the Malaysia 2 for a 2-week journey to the United Nations headquarters where she will address a climate change meeting. But last night, it was confirmed that 2 crew will have to fly to the US East Coast City to man the 60-foot yacht on its return. Now this is a picture of Greta, and I'm not trying to be a dick because this is actually factually correct. She has Asperger's. She's on the spectrum. This isn't any offense to people with this condition, but I really don't expect her, much less a child, to truly understand the ramifications of climate change, or what she's doing, or the fact that it's basically a lost cause. According to common sense, according to the data, according to science, climate change is completely unstoppable. Whether it's man-made or not is irrelevant. It's unstoppable. It cannot be stopped. And if you think that virtue signaling in Western countries and putting heavy taxes and crippling the economy and forcing people to do all this bullshit and the government using climate change as an excuse to increase its regulatory power won't have any horrible consequences and isn't just a huge scam, then you're a fool. Because here's the thing. The countries and regions which will create the most pollution, like China, like India, like the continent of Africa, the populations will explode. As they develop, they will pollute heavily. They will never stop. Never. Environmentalism and climate change is just a scam that rich people and politicians use to reallocate the wealth and increase taxes. It solves nothing. It costs everything. That's a sad truth. I'm sorry to tell you. Did you really think the governments of the West gave a shit about the earth? No, my friends. It's all about that green. We added the trip to New York at a very short notice, and as a result, 2 people will need to fly over to the US in order to bring the boat back, a Team Malaysia spokeswoman told The Times. She added the world has not yet found a way to make it possible to cross an ocean without a carbon footprint, and a further 2 sailors who are currently on board the Malaysia 2nd with Greta may use air travel to get back to Europe. There we go. 4 flights. Potentially. Great job, Greta. Great job. You've accomplished nothing. Which is pretty much climate change activism in a nutshell. Now, this girl's obviously being used by her parents. She's just a prop for the corrupt elite. Look, she's fighting climate change. How brave. When I was 5, I was fighting communists. She's also planning to visit Canada and Mexico before traveling to this year's UN Climate Conference, which is taking place in Santiago, Chile in December, making her journeys by train and bus. Oh, that sounds like it increases the carbon footprint. You know, here's all you need to know about climate change activism. The biggest proponents of climate change activism all leave massive carbon footprints. And that should tell you everything you need to know. The 2-week sailing trip means she can attend the summits without using planes or cruise ships, which cause greenhouse gas emissions. She said her adventure would have challenges, including seasickness, but said many people in the world were suffering a lot more than that. Which means your life should be even full of more suffering to make it fair. To keep herself occupied during the journey, she has books, board games, and a rabbit teddy bear, which is a gift from a friend. Wow. The yacht is made for racing with foils or wings that lift it out of the water for a faster and smoother rise. Inside it is sparse, fitted with a high-tech navigation equipment, an onboard ocean laboratory to monitor CO2 levels in the water, and 4 bunks. Herman and Kasiragi will share one, sleeping in turns. The toilet is a blue plastic bucket, complete with a biodegradable bag that can be thrown overboard. I don't think the ocean wants your crap, literally. And meals will be freeze-dried packets of vegan food mixed with water heated on a tiny gas stove. Pretty sure gas causes pollution too. But state-of-the-art solar panels adorn the yacht's deck and sides, while there are 2 hydro generators, which together provide all the electricity they need on board. How did Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg become the poster girl for the climate change movement? Because the corporations and the politicians put her there. Okay, she's nothing but a puppet, a pawn, a clueless, useless idiot for the activism that the government wants to use as justification for higher taxes and controlling people. I know this is a controversial opinion because we're brainwashed since childhood that the planet is dying and the only way to save it is to ban straws and to increase taxes and to give money to the rich people. Again, climate change is runaway, and it may not even be a problem if global cooling happens. The climate has always changed. There has been far more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in history. It's all a sham. It's all feel-good activism that solves nothing. If they really cared, they would advocate for nuclear and better solar panels, but they don't. They advocate for banning things, and for increasing taxes, and for giving money to rich people. It's all a scam. Born to a professional opera singer mother, wow, she certainly had a hard upbringing. The big-tailed 16-year-old developed her interest in climate change at age 9 after watching a film on the effects of plastic. Again, see? They brainwash these children at a young age. Oh, we're gonna save the world. We're gonna ban straws. We're gonna stop climate change. No, you're not. If you really want to stop climate change, you'd have to get rid of every single human on Earth. Or at least get rid of every single human on the worst polluting places. But will you? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Greta has Asperger's and ADHD, but has often spoken on how her conditions have acted as a motivator instead of a source of depression, which she said they once were. Again, people who are on the spectrum have an extreme difficulty understanding people and the real world. You see, part of the condition is that you're unable to think abstractly. You can't abstract as well. And being in abstraction, I'm sorry to say, is basically the keystone of being human. It's what makes us intelligent creatures. Our ability to abstract is what makes us able to understand the world. So again, I don't think this girl really understands. I think she's high on the activism. She's high on the supply. Over the last few years, she has convinced her family to make drastic changes in order to help save the planet, including refusing to fly in planes, growing their own vegetables, and not eating meat. The weak vegans should fear the strong meat eaters. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Environmentalism, it's not actually fixing anything. And at the end of the day, it's a lifestyle, it's a spirituality, it's basically the new religion. Oh, we're not going to eat that meat, we're not going to eat meat, we're only going to eat vegetables, we're not going to fly planes. Bullshit. You still use electricity, you're still using products, you're still using everything that emits pollution. You're generating lots of trash. Honestly, most people are basically just trash generators and polluters at this point. It's almost impossible to escape. That is why I believe that we should not pursue environmentalism or climate change activism. It's stupid. What we should do is completely pool our resources, and instead of costing the people money, we dump everything into science. Dump it into science. Let's build nuclear power plants all over the country. Let's invest in solar panel technology. We have to go full full speed ahead because it's too late to backtrack. Okay, that's the reality. Greta was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize by members of Norway's parliament for her work and determination, and she received a Freedom Expression Fid Ord Prize in April. What an absolute joke. When I was her age, I got the Medal of Honor for killing the most commies. Greta is setting sail on a 60-foot racing boat, Malaysia 2, to get to this year's UN Climate Action Summit in New York and the COP25 Climate Change Conference in San Diego. Now, I'm not the only one that thinks Greta is full of shit. Let's look at the comment section. Frazee says, am I the only one that finds this girl disturbing? James has a very good point. I don't mind a young woman trying to spread her beliefs. But I strongly object to a 16-year-old with no qualifications being taken seriously by our government, the EU, and the UN. Well, there's your problem. You have a joke of a so-called government. The EU and UN are not legitimate organizations. They don't even have armies. I will not listen to a 16-year-old's view on heart surgery. Why should I listen to her about climate change? You shouldn't. Smile Be Happy says, this is what's known as greenwash. Being seen, although the reality is a world away. Pendragon25 says, so she can stop looking so bloody smug. Already 1984 says, and how did she get to the United Nations, walk or bicycle? Joe says, would have been better to do everything by video conference. Then there'd be no travel involved. Oh, but then she could not virtue signal my friend and get a bunch of money and be famous and feel like her life actually matters. Tenzaki says, I really hope this well-meaning, idealistic, and very innocent young girl disappears out of the media soon. Doesn't matter how pure her intentions are. Good intentions. Bad results. Isn't there an entire history of that, of mankind? So I think we're going to finish off with some very obvious comments. Irene J says, as usual, we cannot make the drastic life changes that are required to be truly eco-friendly, so let's stop bringing others down every time they go on holiday in a plane. Happy Peep says, at Myers, totally agree with you on that one. I had a huge row with my son over his idea of taking care of the environment. Can't stand the rank hypocrisy of using single-use plastic and saying it's fine because it gets recycled. I pointed out that if he really cared, he would bother to use the metal drinks container that I purchased 2 months ago. And if he took care of it, that one container could actually last him a lifetime. Teenagers care about the environment, as long as it doesn't mean giving up their gadgets. After all, it is so much more important to have the latest iPhone. Apparently his brain and his friends' brains, the mass production of tech goods, has no impact whatsoever on greenhouse gases. It is all a con. The only way things will ever change is if we stop buying so much useless tat. And that pretty much says it all, my friends. That is the story. Greta Thunberg is another useful idiot. She's not going to save the world, and she's leaving a massive carbon footprint in the name of climate change. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about Greta Thunberg? What do you think about climate change? Be sure to let me know. Now, as a reminder, you can join me on websites like Patreon or Subscribestar for as low as $1. There are different tiers, you can choose whichever you wish. Doing so will get you access to Fight Club, a private Discord server. You can also donate via PayPal, which does have monthly options, as well as Bitcoin. For those of you interested in a physical product, be sure to check out my affiliate link, Magnetic MacBook Pro Camera Covers. They're very stylish. There's a NyanCat version, which is pretty cool. You can find the link below in the description. But now it's time for a Q&A session with Mr. Obvious. Lou Douglas says, do you think that long-term it may be necessary to flee the US? If so, where would you go? Also, have you thought about doing interviews or call-in with other popular bit shooters? Thank you for your question. Do I think it's necessary in the long term to flee the US? Where would you go? Well, here's the thing. That's exactly the point. Where would we go? If you want all the rights that you have in the United States, there aren't many places you can go. You gotta excuse a loud boomer outside running his, gardening equipment or whatever he's doing. I live in an area with a lot of boomers. Anyways, I don't think it's necessary to flee the US, but if I did, I would go to some island nation, somewhere cheap, somewhere where the American dollar carries a lot of value, and you could live as a rich man in poorer countries. You will have to learn the language, and you will need to make sure that you live in a safer area, but that's where I would go, that's where I would flee. I don't think it's necessary to flee the US. I don't think we should leave our birthplace. I think it is necessary to fix the US, if possible. Honestly, if I could start my own country, I would. The US right now, though, is probably the last bastion of hope that humanity has, and I don't say that unironically. If America does not win, if America does not embrace manifest destiny and expand, then China will. And do you really want to live in a future where communists and thought policers control everything? We're already heading there here in the West. You see, we're in a fight for our very future, and if we don't save ourselves, no one will. As for the second part of your question, I haven't really thought about doing interviews. I'm kind of a lone wolf, and although I am happy to collaborate with anyone and do interviews, in the past, people never really reply to me, so I kind of gave up on reaching out to other creators, but maybe it's something I should look into. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.